My name's Dan Wilding, drummer for the band Carcass and founder of the online metal drum school, the Extreme Drummers Academy, and welcome into Toontrack Metal Month's weekly metal drum lessons, episode 2. And in this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to master the traditional blast beat with just one super simple exercise. Let's go. What's going on, you wonderful people? Welcome into Toontrack Metal Month's weekly metal drum lessons, episode 2. And in this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to master the traditional blast beat with one super simple exercise. Now, if you don't know what's going on here, as part of Toontrack's Metal Month, I'm going to be bringing you a brand new metal drum lesson every single week that's going to cover all the most important things that you need to know to level up your metal drumming and your extreme metal drumming, all using the wonderful Toontrack sounds on my e-kit. Now, before we get started with the lesson, please make sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure you keep up to date when all these lessons come out, because there's plenty more of these coming. And if you enjoy this lesson and you want a full course like this on the traditional blast beat and so much more metal and extreme metal drumming related, then please head over to www.extremedrummersacademy.com. You can see more information about what all that is about. Right, so on with the lesson. Hopefully by now everybody knows what a blast beat is, but if not, I'm going to explain it to you in this lesson right now. As you may already know, there's a whole ton of different types of blast beat, but in this lesson I'm going to focus on what I call the traditional blast beat. The traditional blast beat is arguably the first blast beat that was ever invented, and the jury's out on who actually invented it, but either way, it was popularized in the mid to late 80s by bands like Carcass, the band that I play for now, Napalm Death, Morbid Angel, Terrorizer, whole bunch of others. And this is probably the blast beat that you hear most commonly in extreme metal music. Now, quite simply put, all a traditional blast beat is a 16th note single stroke roll on your hands. So right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Counted 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And then your feet underneath are doing the 8th notes. So basically your hands are doing double time, your feet are doing half time, and that's it really. The main unique thing about a blast beat is your leading hand, so for me that's my right hand, is played on a cymbal. So traditionally it's a hi-hat or a ride, but you can do it on splash, you can do it on crash, you can do it on shiny, you can do it on a cowbell, you can do whatever you want. So essentially your snare is on the offbeat every single time, and it's also meant to be played very, very fast. So that's what makes the blast beat very, very unique. Kind of goes against the principles of kind of traditional groove drumming, and that's why it can be really tricky to master. So I'm going to show you what it sounds like. I'm going to play a blast beat at a very, very slow tempo, just so you can see what it looks like, what it sounds like, what my body's doing, all that kind of stuff. So here we go. So as you can see, pretty straightforward and nothing really that crazy. However, once we crank up the tempo and get it to where it's meant to be, that's when it really starts sounding like a blast beat, or where it starts sounding cool. So I'm going to play it a bit faster for you now so you can see what that's like. So as you can see, it makes it sound much, much cooler, and that's probably the blast beat that you've heard before. It's rare to play it super slow, although some bands do, and it can sound really, really cool. Now, before we move on to the exercise, this is a much discussed thing in the extreme metal world. You can play the blast beat using just one foot playing the 8th notes, or using 2 feet playing the 8th notes. Now, honestly, I don't have an opinion either way. There's some people that say single foot is the only way to go, and there's other people that say 2 foot is the only way to go. Originally, this beat was played with just 1 foot, so just 1 foot playing those 8th notes on the bass drum. Now in Carcass, because they are an original band, and when I joined the band they kind of made me play everything 1 foot, I play most of my stuff single footed, but I've done a lot of practice to get to this point, and it took me a little while to get used to playing absolutely everything with a single foot, because previously to that I was doing 2 foot, which to some people is sacrilege, but again, I absolutely don't care, and you need to do exactly what's best for you and what feels best and what you're most comfortable with. Having said that, once I get to certain tempos, pretty much anything over 200 beats per minute, I normally switch to 2 foot, and that's more of a physical thing and more of a choice thing. Once I get over 200 beats per minute, I can't really keep that power on my feet that I need for the single foot, so the 2 foot just kind of makes a little bit more sense to me. But most of the stuff that I play in Carcass is below 200 beats per minute, so I do almost everything with 1 foot. Now, what I would suggest if you're getting started with this and getting used to this is play around with both. Try it just with 1 foot, see how that feels. Try it with 2 feet, and whatever feels more comfortable and natural to you, give it a go. Or if you've got your heart set on one of them, then just go for that. So on to the exercise. Now, this exercise is super simple, and I've been using it for a very long time. I've used it with a bunch of students It is part of the course. We've got a full course on the traditional blast beat on the extremedrummersacademy.com. One of the exercises on there, there's a whole bunch more exercises and other cool stuff. But yeah, this exercise is super simple. Essentially, as I said before, because the blast beat is a 16th note single stroke roll, but it's split between two voices. And one voice, the cymbal, essentially, the leading hand, doesn't always have the most attack. So it is quite tricky, especially once you get to higher tempos. It's quite tricky to keep the blast locked in and to keep everything locked in, especially that the feet in line with your hands and those snares exactly where they need to be. So this exercise I put together to essentially help you to keep everything tight, help keep everything locked in, and help you understand basically how a blast beat should feel and how it should all lock in and all that good kind of stuff. So again, as we said before, because the blast beat is literally just a 16th note single stroke roll on your hands, to be able to help you lock in with all that, this exercise is essentially just playing one bar of a 16th note single stroke roll just on your snare, and then the second bar is going to be doing the blast beat, so moving your leading hand over to a cymbal. I normally go ride, but you can go, again, you can go hi-hat, you can go crash, you can go China, you can go wherever you want. Now, the only thing here is, with this one, once again, to help you really understand the timing of this, the feel of this, is whenever you're doing the single stroke roll on your hands, I want you to accent every single quarter note. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, while you're doing it on the snare, and also, once again, once you bring it over to the cymbal. You can use the bell of the ride, or you can, do some accenting on the hi-hat, but literally just playing an accented note, even on the shoulder of the ride, is absolutely fine as well. And the reason this is super beneficial is because by doing that motion, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, you can really get the feel of how the blast is meant to be. So again, it's essentially an accented single stroke roll, but you're spending the first bar just on the snare, accenting those quarter notes, and then moving onto the second bar, moving over to the cymbal, and accenting on the cymbal as well. And again, I even do this when I'm playing it for real. I always accent my blast beats. One of the main reasons is because it's not only tricky for drummers to kind of figure out where the one is and where everything is placed, but also if you're playing on a stage, especially a big stage with loads of noise and your monitors aren't great or whatever, to have that accent so that everyone can follow it, it's almost like a metronome. So getting used to accenting the blast beat so you know where you are, the rest of the band know where you are, and even the crowd know where you are. It's a really, really helpful tool to make everybody lock in with you, to make everything a bit more musical instead of just robotic. It's a really, really helpful tool to be able to accent it so that you know where you are, everyone else knows where you are, and it's a really, really cool thing to be able to do. So again, as I said, all we're going to be doing is 16th note single stroke roll on our hands, 8th notes on the feet, 1 foot, 2 foot, completely up to you. But we're just going to be accenting the quarter notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. We're going to do the first bar just on the snare, and then the second bar we're going to be splitting between our cymbal and our snare like a traditional blast. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play it nice and slowly for you so you can see exactly what I mean. Feel free to play along, and let's give it a go. That's quite literally it. As I said, it's a very, very simple exercise, but it's really, really cool to help you build up that confidence with the traditional blast. So your body knows what you're doing. Again, you can understand it from a musical perspective where the one is every time. It's a really cool dynamic exercise because it helps you, with those accents on the leading hand. It's just a really cool exercise across the board. And trust me, if you really get used to this, and you do this quite regularly, it can really help you build up the tightness, the musicality, the clarity, all that kind of good stuff within your blast beats. Now, the best way to practice this, as always, is first and foremost, you need to find a comfortable tempo to start with. Now, I've explained this before, but if you haven't heard it, a comfortable tempo is basically where you can play it very, very comfortably. So nothing's hurting, your forearms aren't burning, everything's relaxed. You can play it casually, comfortably, confidently. Things aren't falling apart really quickly. Find whatever that tempo is for you. It's going to be different for everybody depending on your playing level. And then I want you to repeat this exercise for at least 30 seconds. Now, we've all got timers on our phones or our watches, or even on your laptop. I'm sure you can get timers. So just make sure whenever you practice this with your starting tempo, I want you to do it for at least 30 seconds. Now, you can do more. That is completely up to you. Obviously, just be aware of burnout and fatigue. It's all right to have a little bit of burn in your forearms and stuff, but don't get to the point where you're hurting yourself. That's not good at all. And then after 30 seconds, at least 30 seconds, I want you to move it up by 5 beats per minute or 10 beats per minute at the absolute max. As I've said before in the previous lesson, and I say all the time on the Academy, once you get to high tempos, a shift of anything over 10 beats per minute is a huge shift, trust me. So like 200 beats per minute to 215 beats per minute is a huge shift, whereas 200 to 205 isn't quite so bad, obviously still hard, and 200 to 210 still not quite as bad, still hard. So I really recommend going up in 5 beat per minute increments when you are practicing this. 10 at the absolute max. And then obviously I want you to repeat it again for a minimum of 30 seconds, and I want you to see how your body's feeling, how your forearms are feeling, how your feet are feeling, all that stuff, and then that will hopefully dictate whether you go up by 5 beats per minute or 10 beats per minute on the next round. Now, you will get to a point where you can't do 30 seconds, and that is going to be what's called your max tempo. So once we get to this point, once we get to a point where you've played through a few tempo ranges and you've got to a point where you're literally, you're trying your best, but you can't really get anywhere near 30 seconds, all I want you to try and do it for is 4 repetitions. So 4 repetitions of the exercise. So that's essentially 8 bars. What you'll find is if you do this regularly, you don't need to do it much, only 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, absolute maximum, but consistently try and do it every day, every other day, then what you'll notice is very quickly your max tempo will shift up. So essentially you'll be able to get to the point where you are playing a much higher tempo at 30 seconds than you were just a few weeks ago. But the key is consistency, and the key is not overdoing it. So once you get to that max tempo, just do it for 4 repetitions and then stop. And then take a break, come again the next day, start again from your comfortable tempo, do the whole thing again. And if you do this consistently, little and often, then you'll really notice in quite a short amount of time that you'll start being able to push that max tempo for a longer time. And then before you know it, your max tempo will be even higher. Now, I understand some of these exercises are not the most fun thing to practice just to a metronome. So what I would recommend as well is practicing this stuff along to music. Most modern music, especially modern metal, is recorded to a click track, and it is gridded, so it is all edited, so it's all nice and perfect. So if you've got a song that you really like that's similar to your comfortable tempo, have an experiment, see if you can find one, then put this song on and just play this exercise along to your song. Again, you don't have to do it on the kit. You can do it on a pad. If you've got a bass drum pad and 2 practice pads, then you can put one there acting as the ride or the cymbal, and then a snare pad and then the foot pad. Then you can do it, just put your headphones on and listen to a song that you love. It's an interesting way to practice some of these more kind of monotonous exercises, which are super crucial to be able to level up all your stuff, but sometimes they're not the most fun. So if you can play along to music, or of course you could put Netflix on or a audio book, as long as you can still focus in on the click and still focus in on what you're doing, then that's absolutely fine as well. Hopefully that all makes sense. And now for the last bit of the lesson, as always, I'm just going to play through this exercise at a few different tempos. And you'll see in the fastest tempo, my feet switch from single foot to double foot. Like I was telling you before, pretty much everything over 200 I do with 2 foot. Let's give it a go. And that's the exercise, and that's how to practice it. And once again, thank you so much, guys, for checking this out and giving me your time. Once again, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming. Also, head over to www.extremedrummersacademy.com. Check out what we got going on over there. And of course, everything I recorded today was on my Roland kit with the incredible Toontrack sounds. I use a mixture of Superior and Easy Drummer stuff. I'm going to make a video on all the stuff I use and how I set it up very soon. so keep an eye out for that. Also, make sure you go over to toontrack.com and check out all the awesome stuff they've got going on for Metal Month throughout the entire month of November. Loads of really, really cool stuff, so check it out there. Thank you so much, guys. Any questions or anything like that, make sure to leave it in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.